Greetings, welcome to your first on-demand video lesson. Remember, you will have a sync session later, so we're just going to talk about the first few minutes and moments of class. I just want to show you my workspace just in case you're kind of wondering what you need to get set up here. If you notice, let me go ahead and move that guy out of the way. I am going to use a composition notebook. I got a cheap 99-cent calculator. Of course, you can use your calculator on your phone. I do have my phone handy. There are apps out there like Mathway that you can certainly use to check your work. I don't mind that at all. And then, of course, I got my pencils, and I am just going to show notes just how I would expect you to take notes in class. So we might typically use packets, of course, but since we are not using packets, feel free to go ahead and use loose leaf notebook paper if you want, or go ahead and grab yourself a spiral if you want to do that. So I am going to do my work out of a spiral. Let's go ahead and get started. So on your sync session, you are actually going to have warm-ups. So what I'd like for you to do in your first video lesson is to go ahead and set up your warm-up format. So you will be taking a picture of this and turning it in as a PDF. So let's go ahead, grab your first sheet in your notes and just title it Warm Up, Week 1. And then go ahead and put today's date. Hopefully you're able to grab this. Today's date is the 19th, so hopefully you're able to watch this on the date that it's assigned. And then since we don't have Monday or Tuesday, I'm just going to go ahead and block off a section for Wednesday, a section for Thursday, and a section for Friday. And of course, this is going to be done in our sync sessions. So remind yourself to have this handy, because as soon as sync starts, there is going to be a warm-up, and I certainly want you to be prepared for that. So I'm going to go to the next page in however I take notes, either your binder, your loose leaf, a spiral, or here I'm using a composition notebook. And the first thing that you and I are going to talk about in math models is going to be math operations. And in order for this to kind of coincide with our 6 weeks calendar, we're going to call this Review 1 Part B. I skipped Part A. And again, this is called math operations. So just a reminder, I'm going to take a few notes with you on this on-demand lesson. And of course, we're going to clean up and take some more notes in our sync sessions. So make sure you keep things organized. And a great way to keep things organized, guys, is to go ahead and use this title. So the first thing we're going to talk about is terms. What are terms? Well, terms are just math expressions separated by a plus or minus sign. By a plus or a minus sign. Some expressions just have one term. Some expressions have lots of terms. Let me go ahead and give you an example of a couple of those. Example 1, one term. And guys, a one term is called a monomial. You really don't have to know what that means. You just need to be able to identify how many terms are in a trinomial. Monomial. All right, so example 1 would be like 3s. That is a monomial. It has a single term there. Also, 3 divided by s, or 3 divided by s. Remember that terms are only separated by a plus or a minus sign. So you got to be careful, and you got to keep an eye out for that. Another example of a monomial is going to look like this. So I just said monomials are separated by plus or minus signs, except when they are grouped in parentheses. So if you have something inside parentheses, that is a red flag to let you know that is one term because of the parentheses. So be careful on that. Okay, so let's talk about example 2. Just going to kind of draw a border here. And let's go ahead and discuss what the next part is. So for the next part, it's going to have more than one term. So for example, it would be 3s plus 6. It could be 4 divided by r minus 2. And of course, something that you're probably familiar with, something that looks like this, x squared plus x minus 6. So all of that's examples of more than one term. So I'm going to grab a different color here because I really want this to stick out. This right here, I know for sure that that is 2 terms because I have 2 pieces on either side of the plus sign. And it does not have parentheses. So that is 2 terms for that example. This right here, that is also 2 terms. I do have some division going on, but remember, terms aren't divided or separated by division, only plus and minus signs. And then, of course, down here we have 3 terms. Some of you guys already know that that's called a trinomial. Again, you don't have to worry about that. Just notice that you have 3 terms. You have 3 pieces that are separated by a plus and a minus sign. Okay, let's go ahead and switch topics a little bit. Let's talk about adding and combining positive and negative numbers. So I always cover this. I was a junior high teacher a few years ago, and I did teach operations with integers and all the fancy little drawings on how positives and negatives cancel out, but we're in high school now, so you really need to be fluent with adding positive and negative numbers. So part 2 of today's notes is adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. And remember, if you want to use your phone to add or subtract stuff, or if you want to go grab a 99-cent calculator at the 99-cent store, certainly do that. I just wanted to show you very quickly what the expectation is of adding and subtracting rational numbers. So the first example I'm going to take a look at is a -5 and a +2. So again, when you first look at this, the first thing that I would like for you to recognize is how many terms are in this problem we're dealing with. And of course, there's two terms separated by a plus sign. So we got 2 terms. And then, of course, from here, if you guys shift your mindset, we are no longer adding or subtracting, we're just combining. So I am going to be taking a combination of 5 negatives and 2 positives. So 2 of these positives, of course, cancel out 2 of those negatives. Well, how many negatives are left? 3 negatives. So please box that in. What if it looked like this? So let's say we had a -5 minus a 3. So let's talk about terms. Even though there's a negative, which might look like a minus sign, if there is a minus sign in front of a problem, that's attached to that 5. So if we're trying to figure out how many terms are in this problem we're working on, it is still just 2. I have a term right here and then a term after the minus sign. So again, 2 terms. And we are throwing out the junior high concept of add and subtract. We are just combining some signs here. So I am going to combine that sign with this sign. So I am combining all negative numbers. There's not going to be any 0 pairs. Nothing is canceling out. So 5 negatives and 3 more negatives, -8. And of course, you probably already knew that as soon as I wrote the problem. But again, we're just kind of clearing out the cobwebs from the summer, kind of practicing how many terms are in a problem and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next problem. A -5 plus a -10 minus 2. So for this one, you need to let me know how many terms. And go ahead and give me the answer. And I am going to check that in Canvas. See you guys on the sync session.